I'm not a consultant with a glamorous life in business lounges. I'm the guy in the back of the room who actually makes those glossy PowerPoint promises work. My name is Ethan. I'm 35, a systems engineer for a mid-size U.S. tech company that sells workflow and logistics software to big international clients. My job is simple on paper. Make sure the things we sell don't fall apart the second they touch reality. For the last 3 years, that reality has mostly been one client, a European logistics group I'll call Nordtrans. Warehouses, customs, trucks, ports, pallets, scanners, the unglamorous machinery that keeps other people's lives running on time. We built them a platform that handles everything from inventory movements to customs paperwork. I built the boring parts that no one notices until they fail: routing rules, exception logs, audit trails, user permissions. Inside my company, I was the safe pair of hands. Inside Nordtrans, I was the guy who explains things without lying. Those two reputations don't always mix well. When this story started, I had already done stints in London and Rotterdam for the same rollout. I knew their internal slang, their shortcuts, their favorite excuses. I knew that if a warehouse manager said, "It's always been done this way," it usually meant, "We've been bending the rules for years and no one documented it." Lisbon was supposed to be the last stop, final country, final rollout. 2 weeks, maybe a bit more, then back home to something that felt like a normal life with my girlfriend, Mia. No more airports for a while. No more 3 a.m. calls to fix something someone else rushed. That's how they sold it to me anyway. When my manager, Kyle, called me into a meeting room and said, "Nordtrans wants you on site in Lisbon for the final phase," I didn't argue. "I figured," I said. "What are the dates?" "Fly out Sunday, back next Friday," he replied, flipping his laptop around to show me a rough itinerary the travel desk had mocked up. "2 weeks, max. We can't keep you out forever. Finance is already grumbling about travel costs." He said it like my flights were a personal hobby, not something we billed to an 8-figure account. "Okay," I said carefully, "but I'll need at least one buffer day on the back end. Last 2 locations slipped a bit." "That's why we're calling this one tight," he joked. "We're under pressure to keep Phase 3 on budget." I didn't laugh. If something breaks and I'm in the air while their warehouses are going live, that's not going to look great. "We'll handle it," he said. "We've got remote support. You're not the only engineer." Technically, that was true. Practically, it was not. The others hadn't set foot in a Nordtrans building. They knew the configuration diagrams, not the people shouting on the warehouse floor, but I'd learned there was a line between flagging a risk and being labeled negative, so I swallowed the rest of what I wanted to say. "Fine," I said. "Book it. Just make sure it goes through the Nordtrans portal. They're very strict about travel tracking." That part mattered. Nordtrans had a duty of care policy that bordered on obsessive. Every visitor, employee, contractor, partner had to be booked through their integrated travel system. It tracked who was where, who was in transit, who was delayed. If there was a strike, a storm, a security incident, their risk team would get alerts and call people if needed. I knew this because I had helped their internal team hook our implementation dashboards into that same system. Every time someone from our company flew to one of their locations, it was logged in a weekly report. Names, flight numbers, approvals, changes, who clicked what and when. At the time, I was proud of that integration. It felt like a grown-up version of the scripts I wrote fresh out of college to track small deployments. An invisible safety net. I had no idea that the same safety net would later be the weapon in this story. Travel sent my confirmation later that day. Economy, obviously. Sunday departure, Friday night return. Hotel walking distance from the client's office. I clicked through the details like I always did. Seats, layovers, cancellation rules. Then habitually, I opened the Nordtrans travel portal and searched my name. There it was. Traveler Ethan Cole. Supplier, my company. Itinerary, JFK LIS JFK. Approved by supplier manager Kyle H. Everything clean, everything in the system. No red flags. That night, I told Mia over dinner. Lisbon, huh? She said. You'll finally see something other than loading docks and conference rooms? I've seen the inside of 3 airports and 6 warehouses, I said. Does that count as travel? She smiled, but there was worry in it. How long this time? 2 weeks, I said. They promised. After that, I'm mostly remote. Clean up, support, but from home. More normal hours. You said that after Rotterdam, she reminded me quietly. She wasn't wrong. After Rotterdam, I'd come home with dark circles under my eyes and slept through most of a weekend. This is the last wave, I insisted. Once everything's stable, they won't fly me out unless something really goes wrong. We sat there for a moment, both of us pretending that this time would be different because it was the last one. Just promise me one thing, she said. If it gets crazy again, you tell me. Don't just power through. I promise, I said, and I meant it. At least I thought I did. The first week in Lisbon was textbook rollout chaos, but controlled chaos. Day 1, orientation, local IT introductions, a walkthrough of the warehouse. Day 2, training sessions with supervisors, mocking up real-world scenarios. Day 3, integration testing with customs and carriers. Day 4, user acceptance testing and fixing a dozen critical issues that turned out to be people misunderstanding drop-down menus. The Nord Trans project sponsor in Lisbon, a guy named Raphael, was the kind of client you don't mind losing sleep for. Early 40s, sharp, direct, zero tolerance for fluff. Your documentation saved Rotterdam, he told me on day 3, sliding a printed checklist across the table. My name was on the footer. Glad someone reads it, I said. You'd be surprised, he replied. Most vendors give us screenshots with arrows. You gave us process. That's the difference. It was a small thing, but it stuck with me. At my company, my habit of over-documenting was a running joke. At Nordtrans, it was the reason people weren't screaming on the floor when something glitched. Every evening, I walked back to the hotel, called Mia, and gave her the sanitized version. Training went fine. Integration is annoying but manageable. The coffee is bad, the weather is good. I left out the part where I stared at my laptop until midnight, going through log files, just to be sure. In the hotel lobby, I'd occasionally overhear other business travelers doing the same thing I was, pacing near the elevators, telling someone back home, yeah, 1 more week, then I'm back. It's under control. We all lie the same way when we think the end is in sight. By Thursday afternoon, the system was behaving. Orders flowed. The scanners synced. The exception queues were ugly, but not catastrophic. I could see the finish line. Final checks. Friday, flight home that night, my own bed, Mia's hair on the pillow, instead of a hotel air conditioner rattling above my head. If you had asked me then how much I trusted my company to get me home, I would have said completely. I was on an approved work trip, booked through the client's system, under a contract that spelled out our responsibilities down to per diem amounts. What else was there to worry about? I didn't know yet that there was a conversation happening thousands of miles away, in a conference room I wasn't invited to, where my name was just a line item under travel costs. I didn't know yet that someone would look at my ticket and think, he'll figure it out. He always does. And I definitely didn't know that a single click in a travel portal at 2:14 in the morning would turn a routine flight home into the moment that decided whether I stayed with my company at all. By Thursday night, the Lisbon rollout was holding together with the usual thin layer of optimism and duct tape. We'd ironed out most of the gaps with customs, cleaned up poorly mapped workflows, and trained supervisors who'd been using the same green screen system since the early 2000s. The kind of progress you only get when you stand next to someone, watch what they actually click, and fix what the documentation didn't predict. That's why I wanted to stay longer. Not for sightseeing, not for overtime, for stability. But Kyle, my manager, rarely cared about stability if it cost a cent more than the approved budget. That evening, Lisbon time, we had our daily sync with headquarters. Raphael joined for the first 10 minutes to report that training was going smoothly. He thanked us, said the users were getting comfortable, and then dropped off the call to deal with a customs issue. The second his camera disappeared, the tone in the virtual room shifted. Kyle leaned back in his chair, arms crossed, his "I'm about to make a decision you won't like" face already locked in. "Okay, Ethan," he said. "Let's talk about your request for an extension." I kept my voice steady. It's not a request. It's a risk recommendation. With the customs broker integration, we're still one misrouted data packet away from chaos. Another 3 days on site ensures a clean go-live. "We can support remotely," he said flatly. "We have the tools." "You have tools," I said carefully. "But no one else on the team has been on the warehouse floor. They don't know the local exceptions, the bottlenecks, or how the customs office validates forms. A misconfigured role could stop outbound trucks for hours." Kyle shrugged. "That's why we have SLAs in the contract?" That sentence told me everything. He wasn't thinking about outcomes. He was thinking about the spreadsheet he had to take to finance. "Look," I said, trying to stay calm, "I'm not asking for a 2-week extension. Just stay until Wednesday. It's the safe move." "What's really going on, Ethan?" he asked in that condescending tone managers use when they want to reframe your expertise as insecurity. "You getting tired? Burned out? Homesick?" I stared at my camera for a long second. "No," I said. "I'm trying to prevent a failure, and the cost of that failure is higher than an extra 4 hotel nights." He exhaled loudly, as if I were being dramatic. "Finance is watching travel spend on this project closely," he said. "They've asked us to be strict. No more changes unless something is completely broken." "It will be broken," I said. "That's what I'm trying to prevent." "Well, we can't operate based on maybe." "It's not maybe," I said. "It's inevitable. It's just a question of when." "Enough," he snapped, finally dropping the facade. "You're coming back Friday as scheduled. Finish what you can, hand off the rest, and we'll support from HQ. That's final." In the silence that followed, I wondered whether he realized how reckless he sounded, or whether he simply didn't care. "Then I need to put my recommendation in writing," I said. "For the record." Kyle smiled without warmth. "Do what you need to do." And just like that, the call ended. I wasn't angry at first. I was tired, disappointed, but mostly tired. Still, I wrote the email, a clean, professional message summarizing my concerns, copying Raphael and our delivery director. No accusations, no emotion, just facts. Raphael replied almost instantly, "Ethan is correct. We prefer him on site until Wednesday. I will authorize any additional hotel costs from our side if required." It was the kind of clear, logical, data-backed support that usually ended these conversations. But Kyle didn't respond. Not that night, not in the morning. Instead, at 7:12 a.m. Lisbon time, I received a 3-line email. "Finance denied the extension. Keep original flight. Prepare for handover. No further discussion." For the next few hours, I pushed everything related to Kyle out of my mind. I worked with local teams, ran validation checks, cleaned logs, resolved 2 access escalations, and answered 37 emails from people who always seemed to have urgent problems. Around lunchtime, my phone buzzed with a familiar notification from the Nordtrans travel portal. "Itinerary updated." I opened the app. Outbound flights, still there. Return flight, still visible. No email from travel. No warnings. No special flags. I took a screenshot just in case. I always do that. Habit from years of implementation work. You document everything because the moment you think, "I'll do it later," the system refreshes and the evidence disappears. I thought the worst was behind me. Just a stubborn manager, a tight budget, and a short-sighted decision. I didn't know yet that someone, most likely Kyle, definitely someone with approver access, had already made one more change behind the scenes. A change at 2:14 a.m. a change I wouldn't find out about until I was standing at the check-in desk with a boarding pass that no longer existed. I walked back into the training room that afternoon, certain that tomorrow would be a normal travel day. I had no idea that the real disaster wasn't in the warehouse systems. It was waiting for me at the airport. Friday was supposed to be simple. Wrap up the last training session, run final smoke tests, shake Raphael's hand, grab a cab to the airport, fly home. The system behaved. Orders flowed. The customs broker implementation, our biggest headache all week, finally passed its real-world validation. Raphael was relieved, then grateful, then openly proud of what we'd pulled off. "You've earned your weekend at home," he said, clapping me on the shoulder. "Go relax. We'll keep things stable on our side." I believed him, and I believed I had a seat waiting for me at 8:40 p.m. At 6:15, I walked into Lisbon Airport with my suitcase, waved at the departures board, and got in line at the airline counter. It felt like the hard part was over. When I reached the desk, the agent smiled politely, took my passport, and started typing. Her smile faded. She typed again, slower. Then she looked up with the kind of expression you never want to see from someone holding your fate in a foreign airport. "Sir, I'm not finding an active return ticket for you." I blinked. "What do you mean? I have the confirmation here." I pulled up the email with my itinerary and slid my phone toward her. She read it, nodded, and kept typing. "Yes, this is the original booking," she said softly. "But the return flight was canceled yesterday night." My mouth went dry. Canceled by who? She turned her screen slightly, not enough for me to read every detail, but enough to see a note. Canceled by Corporate Travel, Supplier Account, U.S. Reason: cost optimization. Traveler to self-arrange return. She didn't have to explain the rest. Someone from my company, someone with approver access, had logged into the corporate travel system and canceled my ticket home. Not modified, not changed, canceled. "When?" I asked. "Just after 2 a.m., Lisbon time," she said. "It appears to have been done through your company's travel management portal." I knew that timestamp. It was hours after I'd sent my risk assessment email. Hours after Raphael had supported my recommendation to stay. Hours after Kyle had shut the whole thing down. "I can book you a new ticket," she offered gently. "But it would be a separate reservation. You would need to pay up front with a personal card. Same-day international fare. Lisbon to New York, Friday night. We were talking thousands." "I can't put that on my own card," I said. This was a corporate booking. She understood. She'd probably seen this before. "Your best option is to contact your company's travel desk," she said. "They can reissue the ticket on their payment method." So I moved away from the counter, sat on a bench, and called our travel department. The agent picked up on the second ring. "Hi, this is Ethan Cole. I'm at Lisbon Airport, and my return ticket was canceled without my knowledge. I need it reinstated." She hesitated as she pulled up the file. When she spoke again, she chose her words carefully. "Yes, I see the cancellation. It was requested by your manager, Kyle H. The note says you plan to book your own return and expense it." "I never said that," I replied. "I understand, sir. I'm just reading what's in the system." I hung up. My pulse was thudding in my ears. I called Kyle. Straight to voicemail. Called again. Voicemail. I messaged him. No answer. I messaged our director. Nothing. HR, auto response. "If this is urgent, please contact your manager." People hurried past me in the terminal, families, tourists, business travelers catching flights they could actually board. I sat perfectly still, staring at the departures board as it flicked from on time to final call. For a moment, I felt something close to humiliation, like I'd been demoted to an afterthought. Then something colder settled in, a clarity that replaced embarrassment with anger. They didn't just inconvenience me. They didn't just disrespect me. They violated a contract clause I knew by heart, the duty of care requirement. Nordtrans required every external traveler on their project to be booked through their system so they could track risks. Anyone stranded, delayed, rerouted, they treated it as an operational incident. And the reason I knew that, because I had helped build the reporting integration that flagged such incidents. I stood up, walked back to the counter, and asked the agent, "Can you print the booking record? The part that shows who canceled it and when?" She nodded and printed a sheet with the relevant line items. I folded it and slid it into my laptop sleeve like evidence. Then I found a quiet corner, opened my laptop, logged into the Nordtrans portal, and clicked on the travel risk dashboard. It refreshed. My name appeared at the top, highlighted in yellow. Status: critical, supplier traveler stranded, return canceled by supplier. The system had already flagged the incident, and there on the right side of the screen was a button I had personally recommended they add months ago. Escalate to client risk. Team. I hovered over the button. For a few seconds, I wondered if I should give my company one more chance to fix this. One more call. One more email. Then I remembered the timestamp. 2:14 a.m. The smug email that morning. The silence when I needed help. The line, "Traveler to self-arrange return." I clicked the button. 5 minutes later, I received an automated reply from Nordtrans Global Security. "We are reviewing this incident. Stay where you are." 10 minutes after that, Raphael emailed me directly. "Stay put. We are contacting your company now." My company thought they were stranding me. They didn't realize they had just triggered the one system that could hold them publicly accountable. They shut my ticket. I opened a report they couldn't bury. It started with a vibration in my pocket. Not from my company, not from Kyle, not from HR. From an international number flagged as Nordtrans Global Security. I answered immediately. "Ethan, this is Maria from the Global Security Desk. We've reviewed the duty of care alert. I need to confirm something before we proceed. Are you saying your employer canceled your return flight without providing an alternative?" Her tone was calm, professional. The kind of voice people use when they're already documenting every word. "Yes," I said. "The airline confirmed it. I have the printed record. It shows the cancellation came through our corporate travel account with a note. Cost optimization. Traveler to self-arrange return." No one told me anything. "That is a breach of supplier protocol," she said. "Under our agreement, they are responsible for your travel until you return to your home airport, and they cannot shift that responsibility to you without documented approval from us, which they don't have." "I suspected that," I said. "Where are you right now?" she asked. "Departures Hall, Terminal 1. Safe. Just stranded." "All right," she said. "Stay there. Do not book anything on your own. We're escalating this to your company's executive sponsor." She hung up, and I stood there watching travelers move around me like a river, boarding passes in hand, heading home to people waiting for them. I should have been one of them. Instead, I was the problem they'd tried to hide, now amplified by the one system they couldn't silence. 10 minutes later, my phone lit up again, this time with a Teams call. 4 faces popped onto the screen. Our COO, our delivery director, an HR manager, and Kyle. Kyle looked pale even before anyone spoke. The COO started. "Ethan, we just received a call from Nordtrans. They're extremely concerned. We need to understand what's happening." "My return flight was canceled by someone on our side without notifying me," I said. "The airline log shows it came from our account. I didn't agree to anything." Kyle jumped in, voice defensive. "Ethan, we discussed that you could book your own return and expense." "No," I said sharply. "We didn't. I never agreed to that. I have every email. I asked for an extension. Finance denied it. You told me to return Friday. You never said you were canceling the ticket." The COO cut in, looking at Kyle. "Is that accurate?" Kyle hesitated. It was the longest 2 seconds of his career. "That was my understanding," he said weakly. "That's not what the logs say," I replied. "The note you entered went into the same weekly travel risk report Nordtrans receives. They already saw who canceled it, and when." Kyle's face fell completely at that line. The COO stiffened. We'll handle internal responsibilities later. Right now, Ethan, we're fixing the situation. Nordtrans already escalated it, I said. Their risk team flagged it as a duty of care breach. Raphael emailed me. At Raphael's name, the delivery director swore under his breath. Quiet, but not quiet enough. The COO tried to salvage what he could. We're booking you on the next available flight tonight. Our cost. No debate. Expect the confirmation in 15 minutes. Thank you, I said, but I wasn't done. There's one more thing. The note, traveler to self-arrange return. That language implies I violated policy or changed plans. That's not just a mistake. That's misrepresentation. And Nordtrans noticed. Silence. Real silence. Not buffering. Not awkwardness. Fear. The COO exhaled slowly. We'll review the audit logs, and we'll address that immediately. HR spoke next. Regardless of what happened, Ethan, we want you to know we're taking this seriously. This should not have happened. Understatement of the year. By the time the call ended, a new itinerary hit my inbox. Same flight, new ticket, paid by the company. The agent at the counter reprinted my boarding pass and handed it to me like she was relieved things were finally back to normal for at least one traveler in this airport. I boarded the plane with the same seat I was supposed to have all along. A window seat, 37A, nothing special. But I wasn't the same engineer who'd walked in 3 hours earlier, expecting a routine trip home. I'd seen something clearly. They didn't protect me because it was right. They protected me because they got caught. And Nordtrans wasn't done. During the flight, I slept maybe an hour. Mostly, I replayed the decisions that had led here. Every cost-saving choice, every ignored warning, every time Kyle brushed off my concerns because they didn't fit his narrative. By the time we landed in New York, I had convinced myself of one thing. If my company tried to sweep this under the rug, Nordtrans wouldn't let them, and neither would I. I walked off the plane with my laptop, my evidence, and a calm certainty I'd never felt before. My company thought stranding me abroad was the end of the story. They didn't realize it was the beginning of theirs. By Monday morning, I was back in the office, jet-lagged, determined, and carrying a folder thicker than most people's sense of responsibility. Printed emails, the cancellation record, screenshots of the Nordtrans duty of care alert, every timestamp, every name, every detail they thought no one would notice. I didn't even make it to my desk. My badge, my normally reliable, indifferent little plastic badge, blinked red at the turnstile. Before I could say anything, the security guard waved me through manually. It's doing some updates, he said. HR wants to see you. That sentence hits like a cold knife, no matter how innocent the tone. I walked into the conference room HR uses when they expect things to get messy. Inside were the COO, the HR manager from the call, and our delivery director. Kyle wasn't there. The COO didn't waste time. Ethan, he said, Nordtrans contacted us early this morning. They are extremely unhappy. They've issued a formal notice of breach. He slid a document across the table. I didn't touch it. They have the same logs you do, he continued. They know exactly who canceled your ticket. They have Raphael's emails. They have the duty of care escalation. They send us a demand for corrective action, financial penalties, and an audit review of our travel process. The delivery director rubbed his forehead like he was trying to push the migraine back into his skull. HR jumped in. Kyle has been placed on immediate suspension pending investigation, the COO added, and he's unlikely to return. I didn't smile. I didn't smirk. I didn't feel triumphant. I felt done. Because this wasn't about revenge anymore. It was about clarity. These next parts are important, the COO said. First, Nordtrans specifically asked to keep you on the account. They stated you handled yourself professionally, and that you acted within policy at all times. That surprised me. Not because it wasn't true, but because clients rarely step into internal politics. Second, he went on, they made a request, unofficially. My eyebrows lifted. They asked if you would consider joining them, he said. Direct hire, their internal systems and risk team. They've been impressed with your work for some time. I let that sink in. Raphael, the documentation, the late nights, the clarity I tried to bring when others cut corners. Someone had been paying attention. The CO leaned forward. Ethan, we want you to stay. This incident is on us, not you. We're prepared to discuss a promotion, a bonus, altered reporting lines, whatever you need to feel supported. It was panic dressed up as generosity. The same company that let me sit in Lisbon airport with no ticket home was now suddenly desperate to keep me. Because Nordtrans wanted me. Because my name was on every successful part of the rollout. Because losing me meant losing their credibility with a client too valuable to gamble with. HR spoke next. We know what happened on Friday was unacceptable. We are committed to rebuilding trust. I nodded. But trust doesn't rebuild itself because someone says the right words after they're caught. That afternoon, I had a separate call with Raphael and Maria from the Nordtrans security team. Raphael didn't bother with corporate politeness. Ethan, I'm very sorry for what your company put you through, he said. We do not treat partners that way, and we do not treat potential colleagues that way. Maria added, if you join us, you'll be on the inside. No more fighting your own leadership to get the right thing done. They outlined the offer. Real salary, real respect, relocation package if I wanted it, remote if I didn't, and a signing bonus larger than the cost of 3 canceled flights, maybe 4. They had already calculated everything my company failed to value. By the end of the week, the breach penalties hit my old company's books. Nordtrans reduced their status from strategic partner to vendor under review. A competing firm picked up modules we used to handle. Internally, whispers spread. Travel cancellation, duty of care breach, client furious, manager suspended. Kyle resigned the next month, and I accepted Nordtrans' offer. The irony wasn't lost on anyone. The same system I had helped design, the duty of care tracker, was the system that exposed exactly who clicked what, when, and why. The logs didn't lie. The timestamps didn't bend. The metadata didn't care about someone's bonus targets. A single canceled ticket cost them. A 6-figure penalty, part of a major account, their project manager, and their most trusted engineer. Meanwhile, I moved into a new role at Nordtrans, where cost optimization meant improving safety, not quietly deleting return flights at 2 a.m. Mia and I talked a lot after this. I told her everything, the exhaustion, the pressure, the moments I pushed myself too far because I didn't want to let anyone down. She listened. We made new rules, boundaries. No job should ever outrank sanity. Sometimes when I travel for Nordtrans now, I open the trip log out of habit. I still see the columns I built. Created by, changed by reason, timestamp approver. ID. It's strangely comforting, because here's what all of this taught me. The truth doesn't always need drama. It just needs a record. And when someone cancels your ticket and expects you to disappear quietly, they forget one thing. In our world, the logs outlive the lies. That's what they missed. That's the detail that cost them everything.